Author Awards in association with the Times of India. Today we celebrate women authors on International Women's Day. Before we start, let's have a round of applause to celebrate this wonderful occasion. I'll be honest with you, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. But in today's day and age, if you're a comedian who can catch a flight, you're thrilled to be anywhere, to be honest. I almost didn't make it here today because I was catching a flight from Mumbai and I was going to check in. I checked in, I got to security, I was about to catch the flight, and the security guard stopped me. He said, "Sir, boarding pass." I said, "Sorry sir, hum kagaz nahi dikhayenge." Come on, 3 people clapping is not enough. If you don't clap, clap all together. But it is wonderful to be here. Every Women's Day, I am normally invited to be a part of a panel where there are 4 women and myself, and it is my job, rightfully, to represent mankind and apologize. So essentially, I spend the whole hour saying, "Yep, sorry, our fault." So it is a wonderful change to be here today to celebrate accomplished women. It's also fantastic to be hosting an awards for a change. Normally, I'm the guy who's doing stand-up comedy on stage. And hosts can be quite interesting. Recently, I was in Singapore, and the show was hosted by a Pakistani stand-up comedian. So this guy got on stage, warmed up the audience, and he invited me onto stage. In that second, I realized I had been a part of history. It was the first time I had seen a Pakistani invite an Indian to occupy a piece of land that he was occupying before. Now, has everyone been to Singapore? Give me a show if you've been to Singapore. Nothing ever happens in Singapore. The last time I went there, front page of the newspaper, there was a pig on the street. If there is a pig on the street, in Singapore, that becomes headline news. In Germany, it becomes a sausage. In America, it becomes the President of the United States of America. And I'll be honest, that night we had a very drunken night, finished at 5:30 in the morning. Next morning, I'm catching a flight to Kuala Lumpur. I get to the airport. In my hangover, I lost my boarding pass. I went to the woman at the counter. I said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I've lost my boarding pass. Can you give me a fresh one?" This woman started shouting at me. "How can you be so careless? How can you lose your boarding pass?" I said, "Excuse me, you work for Malaysian Airlines. You lost an entire plane, all right." Then from there I went to Seoul in Korea. Has anyone been to Seoul? Give me a cheer if you've been to Seoul. A few people, everyone in the front of Raj. The last time you went there, how many days did you go for? 2 days? In those 2 days, did you ever go to the washroom? Because one of the most amazing things about Korea are the washrooms. You sit down and right next to the washroom there is a keyboard. Did you see this, Raj? There is a computer. And I thought to myself, I have to try this. Raj, did you try this? Because I press this button, this jet comes from the back and hits me right in the sweet spot. In that second, I thought to myself, South Korea should have declared war on North Korea. They should have sent a missile towards Kim Jong-un. Because if a toilet can find an ass with such pinpoint accuracy. Come on, you did not expect that to be a political joke, did you? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the awards to begin. May I please invite onto stage the curator of these wonderful awards, the lovely Vinita Daura Nangia, to say a few words. You're supposed to clap until she gets to the podium, right?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Author Awards 2020. And it happens to be Papa CJ's birthday today, so a very, very happy birthday to you. A very happy Women's Day to all the women here, and a very happy day to the guys who are here to support the women. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable Member of Parliament and eminent author. Mr. Harshpati Singhania, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, JK Papers. Mr. Raj Jain, CEO, BCCL. Our eminent jury for Author Awards, respected publishers, authors and dear friends in the audience. They say the qualities of both a man and a woman dwell within us all. Ardhanarishwar, a composite of the masculine and feminine energies in the world. Purush and Prakriti, the root and womb of all creation, is ours to own. But while men mostly live in denial of the feminine within themselves, women embrace the masculine with pride and confidence. The yin and yang, the competing and complementary forces of nature that come together to create reality. And that is what makes women the complete beings that they are. And yes, it also makes a woman the contradictory being that men are forever trying and failing to decode. Aristotle considered women inferior to men. German philosopher Schopenhauer said women by nature are meant to obey. Another German philosopher, Nietzsche, called a woman God's second mistake. And then, of course, Shakespeare immortalized the words, "Frailty, thy name is woman." All definitions of women given by men. What do they know what it is to be a woman? They have no idea. Inferior, obedient, a mistake, frail, no. All these are adjectives women threw out of the window years ago, with many more. And with this, we also threw away the need to explain ourselves to anyone. Today, women are at a point where we do not need to prove anything to anyone but to our own selves. And this promise that we women make to ourselves is an important one, because it is also the promise made to the generations of women who came before us, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-great-great-grandmothers. Because every step taken by every woman back then, every time she raised her voice in support, each time she raised a hand to be heard, each time she took a step in the right direction, all that is what has brought us here today. We owe it to them. I have been asked repeatedly in the last few months, and particularly, especially by male authors, some of whom are here today, why an award only for women writers? The simplest answer to this is to encourage and recognize women in the field of writing and literature. Men are still seen to have a disproportionate advantage in the field of publishing, despite the fact that publishing houses employ mostly women. But that is behind the scenes work. It was 174 years ago exactly when the Bronte sisters first wrote under male pseudonyms, because it was felt women writing fiction would not be acceptable to men. Today, still a few women authors write under male pseudonyms, or just use their initials, especially in the field of crime writing thrillers. All notable literary prizes in the world go to men still, and the bestseller lists are full of male authors. We need to change all that, and especially in India. Virginia Woolf said, for most of history, Anonymous was a woman. But do you know that this is not so in India? Did you know that, interestingly, India is one country which has seen a role reversal in this field? We have a number of instances where legendary male authors took on female pseudonyms as they felt their work would be better appreciated. Prominent Bengali author Sarat Chandra Chattopadhyay, known for his writings about women and for women, wrote novels like Devdas, Parinita, Nishkriti under the pen name Anila Devi, believed to be his sister's name. The most popular Tamil author, S. Rangarajan, wrote under the pseudonym Sujata, his wife's name. The legendary Malayalam author, M. K. Menon, wrote under a female pen name too, Vilasini. India has a heritage of learned women saints and philosophers, including the 23 women sages who wrote verses of the Vedas. The South is replete with the names of erudite women saints, philosophers, and poets. At least 27 of the poets who wrote the ancient Sangam literature or the Tamil Vedas were women. Karnataka also had a lot of women saints celebrated for their wisdom, such as Akka Mahadevi, a medieval feminist. The great Tamil epics, unlike the Sanskrit epics, have women as main characters. It is worrisome that somewhere along the way, mindsets changed so much that these facts today surprise us. It is this thinking that needs to be addressed, that's all. And events like our Author Awards for women today shine light on the fact that women have been sidelined for long and need a leg up now. Because yes, we all recognize they are equally talented, creative, and market savvy. They just need an equal playing field. one step in front of the other, one word after another, and no longer will we need to be called women writers. Just like the men, we all too will be just writers. It is with great pleasure I share the fact that we received 850 entries for the Women Author Awards. So many more than 850 books were written by women in this year, and about 850 of them reached us. These were books written for the period between November 2018 to November 2019. The entries went through a thorough auditing by Grant Thornton, after which an expert screening committee of diverse backgrounds helped us go through and choose the lot that would reach the judges. A panel of 3 judges for each category: fiction, non-fiction, children's books, and debut, headed by 1 jury chair, were appointed. We discussed and shared the criteria to be employed, and the judges took upon themselves the daunting task of going through all the books. First, a long list was arrived at for each category, then a short list, and finally, the judges are all here today, ready to announce the winners, which we will get to know very soon. Let me introduce our panel of judges. You will see them all on stage in a short while. So for fiction, we had Ashwin Sanghi as the chair. India's largest selling fiction writer with several chartbusters to his credit, Ashwin Sanghi is with us here, right in the front row. The 2 other judges who were part of the fiction panel are Gitanjali Chatterjee, former Deputy Secretary, Sahitya Academy, and in charge of the English publications. She's here as well. And Jayashree Mishra, popular Indian author known for her versatility across genres, spanning literary, romance, memoir, thriller, and historical fiction. Jayashree is here with us as well. The non-fiction jury was headed by Sonali Bendre, Bollywood actress, author, and an avid reader who has her own book club since 2017. Sonali could not make it here today for the function because of some prior commitments. She's not able to come here today, but she did a great job and deserves an applause. Joining her in the non-fiction jury was Yasir Usman, journalist, TV producer, and author of several Bollywood biographies. Yasir is here. And Rishi Pratim Mukherjee, avid reader and co-founder of Scoop4. Rishi is here as well. For the debut category, we have Shobha De, internationally acclaimed columnist, novelist, a worthy social commentator, and influencer with more than 20 books to her credit, and sitting right here in the front row with us. Joining Shobha, Arjun Gain, a gifted writer who straddles many genres ranging from comic books to mystery. Arjun is here as well. And Mani Mugdha Sharma, author and editor with the Times of India, his latest book being Allahu Akbar. Mani Mugdha is here as well. To children's books category, Bulbul Sharma was the chair for the panel. Well-known painter and writer whose works have been translated into several languages. Joining Bulbul was Ramindra Kumar, also here. Ramindra is an award-winning children's author with 35 books to his credit and a very popular writer. And Shivani Wazir Pasrich, founder of the Commonwealth Cultural Forum, actor, compere, and director of the Study School, also here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, in an exemplary move, JK Paper and Times of India joined hands to launch this annual Property Author Awards. I must take the opportunity to sincerely thank Mr. H.P. Singhania for his keen interest and attention to detail, our judges for their time and expertise, and our entire team at the Times of India for their unstinting efforts in planning and executing this amazing event. Thank you all, and thank you so much for being here today. I really hope you enjoyed the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vinita. May I please now invite onto stage Mr. Raj Jain, CEO, Bennett Coleman & Co. Limited, for his address.
This should be brief. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Times Group, I welcome you all to the first edition of the Authors Award. Since times immemorial, women have played an integral role in the aspects of life and indeed in all aspects of life, and indeed have been at the very forefront of creation and origin of existence. Sadly though, they have always been placed on the fringes, never truly integrated into the historical, political or social narrative in a meaningful way. Yet there was always one very important aspect that mattered and could never be suppressed. Barring a handful of deeply orthodox states, women worldwide could express themselves and connect to each other and the world through the written word. Sadly, back then, mostly their words were read only by other women, and sometimes they had to write under a male pseudonym just to be read by women too. Fortunately, today we live in a changed world which is much richer because of the writings of strong, independent women who have deservedly earned their space in all spheres of life. Today, a woman is celebrated by her intellect, her emotional quotient, and her contribution to the world. Interestingly, in India, we have instances of some legendary male writers writing under female pseudonyms. And of course, who knows, seeing the success of women writers today, many more male authors may start adopting female pseudonyms. We at the Times of India have always taken pride in the written word, and a testimony to that commitment is our various literature festivals and other projects promoting books and authors as this one today. I am honored to welcome our esteemed chief guest for the evening, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, author and honorable Member of Parliament, who has graciously taken this time to be a part of this special evening. JK Papers, who have always provided material for women to pour their souls through, today are supporting the Author Awards. I am grateful to Harshpati Singhania, Vice Chairman and Managing Director of JK Papers, for their support for this marvelous initiative. I have known Harsh and his charming wife Mamta for several years to take the liberty to share their own personal love for the written word, a passion they have passed on to their next generation too. Additionally, a big thanks to our esteemed jury and process validators, Grant Thornton. To close, a special welcome to all our women authors and publishers whose great work has ensured their presence, and their male colleagues who are here to applaud them. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks a lot, Raj. May I now please invite onto stage Mr. H.P. Singhania, Vice Chairman and Managing Director of JK Paper, to say a few words.
Thanks, CJ, and once again, a very happy birthday. What an occasion. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Raj Jain, who's been, as he said, my dear friend, and if I may say further, a golfing partner. Vinita Nangia, who's actually put this together. Esteemed jury members, all of you sitting right here, authors, publishers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. I'm delighted to be here with you today and be a part of this grand celebration of women authors who have penned down their stories and experiences on paper and made an unparalleled contribution to literature in a world that has been at times inadequately appreciative of what they've done. I welcome you all. We at JK Paper have always been not surprisingly, passionate about paper. Our roots go back to 1938, and since then our bond, we also make bond paper, by the way, no pun intended though, our bond with reading, writing, publishing, and printing is only deepened. We make paper in a sustainable way and are today a carbon positive and a wood positive company. Thank you. So actually, if you were to buy a pack of our JK paper, or JK copier, it says for every pack you buy, we plant a tree. So we actually plant more trees than we harvest. Thank you. However, in this rapidly changing digital era, we wanted to engage even more with the print medium. Our love for paper and the respect and admiration for women authors triggered us to bring this Author Awards that celebrate the her in the author. If you notice, it is AUTHER, and that was deliberately intended. Her creativity, her bold voice, her unique perspective, and her expression. And what a better day than to do it today, being International Women's Day. When we thought of it, tying up with Times of India became the obvious choice. A leading newspaper with huge respect and readership, a platform that can influence, encourage, and inspire. But as you've heard already, in the past, women authors did not always write under their names and sometimes had pseudonyms. I was not entirely aware of this fact, and when I got involved with this, I discovered that George Eliot, famous for Mill on the Floss and Middlemarch, if I'm not wrong, was actually Mary Ann Evans. The three Bronte sisters you've heard about also wrote under male names. And apparently Charlotte Bronte was once told, literature cannot be the business of a woman's life. Biases and prejudices. I wondered what these have got to do with talent and stories, right? In recent times, the author of the famous Harry Potter series, Joanne Rowling, wrote as J.K. Rowling, as you all know. But what I also did not know, she has also published under the name Robert Galbraith. I did not know that. Of course, Dr. Tharoor knows, and he is nodding vigorously. They did this for fear, perhaps, of not being taken seriously or not getting published. However, thankfully times have changed. So here we are today with some of the best women authors right with us in this room. We admire you and your love for the written word. We are happy that in our very inception year, the awards have received such an overwhelming response, as Vinita ji has already told you. We hope to inspire and celebrate many more women authors in the coming editions of the Author Awards. I would now like to welcome a celebrated author, a three-time Member of Parliament, who has served as Union Minister, and a dear friend, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, as our chief guest for this evening. It's an honor to have you with us. I don't know, Papa, if I stole your lines, but I thought that he would not be very happy if I didn't welcome him in this manner. Thanks. Thank you.
Hang on, sir. The chief guest deserves a slightly more appropriate introduction. So, in fact, to felicitate the chief guest, may I ask Raj to come back on the stage as well? Mr. Singhania, if you could please come center stage. Our chief guest today is a blue blood sesquipedalian who definitely is not, let me repeat, not a snollygoster. He loads his gasparating farrago of distortions. His books are more than just multi-page exercises in flossy nor cine pilification. His writing and tweets help me overcome hippopotomonstrosky pedaliophobia and broaden my vocabulary of long words, which earlier consisted of only pneumono-ultramicroscopic silico-volcanoconiosis. If you haven't understood a single word, then you know who the chief guest is. Member of Parliament, author, and now stand-up comedian. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Mr. Singhania. I hope you all have your dictionaries out. Dr. Tharoor, if you could now join us and say a few words.
Well, you don't need a dictionary to understand the simple message. Happy birthday, Papa CJ. Many happy returns of the day. Good to see you. You beat me to it again, because mine is tomorrow. My dear friend Harshpati Singhania, MD of JK Paper, Rajan of Bennett Coleman Company, Vinita Nangia, who persuaded me uncompromisingly to give up something else and be here this evening, distinguished writers, including many friends on the jury, ladies and gentlemen, friends, I hope that covers everybody. It really is wonderful to be with you all this evening on International Women's Day to celebrate the JK Paper and Times of India Author Awards, and indeed for the opportunity to celebrate the galaxy of Indian women writers who have, through their works, led a revolution within writing in our country. I'm particularly happy that I'm here with the three wonderful and strong women in my life, my mother and my two sisters, who have come from three different places to be here and join me on this occasion. I'm happy to note that the list of categories covers every age group and every kind of category of writing, from the best debut by a female writer to a Lifetime Achievement Award, and from awards for best fiction, of course, for the best writing in non-fiction. I still don't know who the awardees are. I asked the organizers when I arrived, and they said, we don't know either. You'll have to open the envelope and find out. So we're all at the edge of our seats waiting for these results. But I was very pleased to hear what an overwhelming response this first edition of the awards has received from publishers, editors, writers, and readers, contributing in a terrific way through the sheer volume of nominations. I do hope this is only the beginning. I think Harsh is already committed to continuing his involvement with this, and the awards should only grow further from here. And it's wonderful that despite all the, I still think, slightly alarmist fears sparked around the coronavirus, that you've all come here. When Papa CJ talked about catching a flight, I thought his next line was going to be, if you can catch a flight, you can catch a virus. But he didn't mention it. I don't think, however, your riff is going to go on for much longer without somehow getting into that space, because everything around is sadly being cancelled these days. Anyway, everything that needs to be said about women writing has already been said. I was sitting and smiling and nodding because between our three first speakers, amongst our three first speakers, they made pretty much all the points I was going to make. Starting with Gargi, Maitreyi, and all the female rishis who contributed to the composition of the Vedas, to Andal and the great singers from the south who gave us Sangam literature. Mirabai was not mentioned, but she herself, great poet and lyricist, if you want to put it that way, in the Bhakti movement, and so on and so forth. Our tradition of writing is quite phenomenal. But let me turn instead briefly to the fact that this celebration is coinciding with International and indeed now National Women's Day, because in many ways, in some ways, you can argue it's very fitting that we have a dedicated day to celebrate women. I was just across the hall as a guest at a rival event where the BBC is honouring Indian Sportswomen of the Year, and they too have chosen to pick this day. Sportswomen on one side of the Taj Palace basement and writers on the other. But the fact is that one could argue that there's something slightly demeaning about having an International Women's Day, because strictly speaking, every day ought to be Women's Day. You can argue it's nice to have one day special that you can particularly celebrate, but we do stand the risk, and I think you'll all agree with that, of reducing the entire day and the gender that's being celebrated to objects of patronage, and often patronizingly so, and acts of tokenism. And you know what's particularly frustrating is, as Women's Day has caught on in popular appeal, what you're seeing is more and more an exploitation of women to serve other agendas in other areas. So discount coupons to encourage purchases on online shopping portals, usually accompanied by some absolutely mindless messaging that in fact reinforces the very stereotypes that women seek to break. So we have one popular food delivery app that says, to cook or not to cook, her choice, not her duty. This Women's Day, let's celebrate their choice. So what if I don't cook, order with me, you know? That sort of message. A popular beverage saying, for women who elevate the dreams of an entire generation, uncap your force. Drink their drink, and somehow Women's Day gets celebrated. There's a certain cynicism about this that I think all of us have probably seen and reacted to. And at the same time, we need a Women's Day, if only to remind us in a focused and concentrated way of the many injustices perpetrated against women and in relation to women around the world. I have to say that standing here as a writer, which is the capacity in which I was invited, I can't overlook the fact that I'm also a politician. And to be a male Indian politician in the celebration of women's writing is slightly shame-making. But the fact is that I come from a profession which is full of barriers for women, right? So in the current Lok Sabha, for instance, out of 543 MPs in our Lok Sabha, only 78 are women, which is 14%. And as you know, 49% of our population is female, so they are clearly not adequately represented in our parliament. In the previous parliament, it was 12.5%. And in a country where we have 1.3 billion people, we can't find women? Of course we can. It's just that we put up barriers to deny them the opportunities that those who are already entrenched in having them wish to preserve for themselves. You look at the cabinet, only 3 women ministers. And they're very strong, impressive women ministers, but there are just 3 of them. I'm proud that my party has stuck its neck out for some years now in arguing for 33% reservation, women's reservation bill. We pushed it through the Rajya Sabha, couldn't go to the Lok Sabha, but now a party that supported us in that bill has an absolute majority in the Lok Sabha, but has chosen not to bring it forward. So these are some of the, shall we say, hypocrisies we see standing in the way of fulfilling the pious bromides that are always addressed to women in our country. And we do know that these barriers are not only in politics. You see them in the job markets, in positions of leadership within corporations, positions of influence within the government and policy-making circles, even in many ways in terms of the way in which women's real contributions, even in traditional society, are relegated to footnotes, despite the fact that our nation has depended so much on them. For example, the value of unpaid labor by women at home, and indeed on the farms in our rural India, is never factored into GDP calculations. In fact, if you just were to take the prevailing minimum wage as what women should get for their unpaid labor, you'll suddenly find that, for example, a global calculation was made by the New York Times. They say that it would amount to a staggering $10.9 trillion, which would exceed the combined revenue of the 50 largest companies in the Fortune 500. So let's not ever get away from the fact that we underestimate women at every stage of the time, at every stage of every day of the year, and therefore just celebrating Women's Day once does not absolve us of the responsibility of doing something about this problem on the other 365 days of this leap year and 364 of the rest to follow. Now, to look at the question of women's writing, it's already been pointed out, as I was planning to, that many women were forced to use male pseudonyms. George Eliot was mentioned as the French writer, George Sand, or George Sand, as the English called her. J.K. Rowling was rightly mentioned, P.D. James, another famous woman writer of thrillers, who didn't use pseudonyms, but concealed their female identity because there was a perception that many men wouldn't buy books written by female authors. Of course, things have changed very much, but the fact fundamentally remains that too much of our history, too many of our stories had been written principally by men. And if you look at the global picture, the vast majority of published writing has been not just by men, but by white men. And therefore, the way in which readers, the literate publics of the world, have looked at the world has been shaped and conditioned by the perspectives of these men, these white men. And either women have been ignored, relegated to footnotes, dealt with in terms of tokenism. Oh, she's a woman's writer, like a woman driver. We all know what people mean when they say those things. And this, of course, has been submerged in the larger flood of male-dominated writing. You know, I'll give you a couple of numbers that may interest you. Out of 115 Nobel laureates for literature, how many have been women? Just 15. So 100 men to 15 women. You go to the US, a supposedly progressive modern society, 86 Pulitzer Awards for best playwriting in the last 100 years, only 15 were either penned or partly co-authored by a woman. It's not just writing, mind you. You go even to all of us grew up seeing our mothers dominating our kitchens, but in a world with over 100 Michelin star winning chefs, only 3 female chefs have been recognized with that category of honor. So somehow the world has remained, despite all our progressiveness, a male preserve. And the same wave of male writers are inevitably responsible for creating and articulating, portraying women characters, women's concerns in their books. Inevitably, this has resulted in archaic creations that the majority of women who breathe and live today can seldom relate to. In other words, the experience of what it means to be a woman is channeled through the male perspective. Women are seen, the famous phrase, through the male gaze, and inevitably there is a considerable limitation in how that experience is described. This is why I won't be too excited about Vinita's examples of male authors using female pseudonyms. In fact, she is quite right in the example she gave. The very famous writers have done so. Today, the best-selling writer in the Arabic language is Yasmina Kadra, who turns out to be a pseudonym for a Tunisian colonel in exile. So, a male Tunisian colonel, I can assure you. So the problem is that the issue is not one of the name you use. The issue is one of your sensibility. And using a female name doesn't give you a female mindset. Today we are celebrating authentic female voices who have inhabited the experiences of women that they seek to portray, something no man, however sensitive, however attuned to other people's feelings, can possibly replicate except second-hand. And to my mind, many of the stereotypes that we've been stuck with of women have come from males. In a rival newspaper to the Times of India, I have a weekly column on words, since Papa CJ chose to pull my leg on that. And the fact is that today's word is one that probably most of us hadn't heard before, muliebrity. Muliebrity actually means femininity. And it's a word that comes from a Latin root implying soft. So the quality of softness is what we want in women, and so we use a word to describe women. We, the men, use a word to describe women that actually describes what we want in women and not really the way women seek to be themselves. Another favorite male word for women is hysterical. That comes from the uterus. Okay, so the word hysterical means somebody who possesses a uterus. So women are hysterical, and as a result, we have actually settled them with that name. And somehow, growing up in a house with a strong mother and two strong sisters, I never saw this soft feminine side somehow very much. So I grew up very much all my life with a respect for strong women, because that's all I saw at home. And to my mind, it was perhaps the best education I got, because ultimately the taking for granted that somehow it's the men who are the strong, the dominant, the commanding powers, and that women are meant to be soft, submissive, and feminine, is at the root of many of the problems that patriarchy has inflicted on the world. We've seen, we're living in the era of the Me Too movement. We've seen it score some significant successes in the West. Not yet in our country. We'll have to see how some of the first court cases on Me Too come out. There has been a significant movement for equal pay, but in India it is still an exception rather than the norm. I won't embarrass any of the corporate chieftains in the room, even though I know a couple of them, by asking them if they do pay their female executives exactly the same as they would have paid a man in the same job. If they do, congratulations. If not, rethink. There is obviously more and more of a movement for equal access to positions of leadership. Ultimately, Women's Day and an award like this reminds us of the evident shortcomings of the existing status quo and the evident problems we face when we restrict ourselves to a perspective that is shorn of the really important voices of women. I remember Kofi Annan, my late boss at the United Nations, told me that old African proverb said that women hold up half the sky. I said to him, that may be in Africa. In India, they hold up much more than half the sky, maybe 3/4 of the sky. Because you see, particularly in our rural areas, women looking after the homes, bringing up the children, and working in the fields, while men are sitting around in charpoys with their hookahs. And the truth is that in our country, we are perhaps loath to recognize the significant and stirring achievements of women. Today is an honorable exception. I congratulate JK Paper and Times of India on the Author Awards for the effort that you have made to actually come up with an award, with a series of awards that honor women achievers in a significant field where women have not always been given their due. I congratulate the yet unknown awardees who are going to be announced today, and I do hope that all of us who have attended will leave not just with an appreciation of the winners for what they have written that has won them the award, but for the entire struggle behind getting to the stage today that has animated all of them in what they have sought to do. So once again, thank you for having me here. Congratulations to all of you for being here, for giving the awards, for sponsoring the awards, and for winning the awards. Much appreciated. Good luck to everyone. Jai Hind, and happy Women's Day.
Dr. Tharoor, I may have beaten you to your birthday, but I have not forgotten it. And since it is Women's Day, I am not going to give this cake to you. I am going to ask Raj and Mr. Singhania to please escort the strong women in Dr. Tharoor's life, his lovely mother and 2 sisters, to come up on stage and accept this cake on our behalf. Let's have a round of applause for the 3 wonderful women at that table. We will come to you, ma'am. It is Women's Day, don't make the effort. But here you go. Happy birthday. Oh, excellent. Mommy's not coming, that's fine. No, you're not supposed to feed him, that's fine. Yeah, you can stand and take a photo. Hang on. Can we have a round of applause for Dr. Tharoor's mother?
CJ, it's actually your mother who needs celebrating today, mine tomorrow. Because all the birthday boys did absolutely nothing. We just emerged. All the hard work was done by the mothers. So it's there we ought to celebrate on birthdays. All the best to your mom, CJ. Take care.
I'm going to do my job now. All right. Excellent, Dr. Tharoor. Thank you so much. Let me distract you until all the cake settles down. We have people here from multiple cities in the country. Let me just quickly check. People from Delhi and Gurgaon, North India, give me a cheer. You are cheering very loudly, sir. Let's be honest. People from Delhi are known to be quite badly behaved, especially the men. Gurgaon. I love how you say that with pride. Gurgaon men are very badly behaved. I have been living in Delhi NCR for the last 10 years. I have become badly behaved. This is your influence, sir. The other day I was walking on the road. From behind I saw this gorgeous girl. Beautiful body, long hair, white salwar kameez. I whistled at her. She turned around, it was Baba Ramdev. Then of course we have Mumbai. Anyone here from Mumbai? Mumbai, give me a cheer. A few people from Mumbai. You're like, Bombay! See, that's the thing, Arjun. I don't understand the language you speak in Bombay. I get confused. Because I live in Delhi. You know, like we call it bread, you call it pav. We call it pyaz, you call it kanda. We call it a servant quarter, you call it a 2 BHK. Then of course we have Bangalore. Anyone from Bangalore? Bangalore, give me a cheer. A few people, 3 people from Bangalore not cheering, I understand. I actually love Bangalore because in Bangalore you can party like a rock star until about 11:30 at night. Chennai, anyone from Chennai? Chennai? Nobody, a few people from Chennai. Chennai, let's be honest, madam, you can be quite an illogical city. Yes, you can, madam. You have a hospital they call Agarwal Hospital. Because it was built by an eye doctor, they made the entrance to this hospital in the shape of a massive eye. What if he was a gynecologist? I grew up in Calcutta. Anyone from Calcutta? Calcutta, give me a cheer. This is an Author Award. Of course we have people from Calcutta. I learned to drive in Calcutta. I remember taking driving lessons in London. This instructor asks me, he says, you Indians, why don't you drive in a straight line? I said, listen, I am from Calcutta. In England, you drive on the left of the road. In Calcutta, we drive on what is left of the road. Of course, we had a Bengali president, Pranab Mukherjee. Any fans of Pranab da? Give me a cheer. A few people. Okay, give me a cheer if you think that Abdul Kalam was the coolest president ever. I agree with you completely, but let me tell you why. Because he was president of India the same time that George Bush was the president of the United States of America. He could have walked into the US, gone up to anyone and said, you know what, your president, he's a dumb fool. If anyone turned around and said, who do you think you are, rocket scientist? Gentlemen from Gurgaon, you did not get that joke. Alright, let us carry on with the awards. We have tried to capture the journey of the first Author Awards for women, for which we have an AV. Can we share that, please?
For centuries, authors have championed the art of putting pen to paper and devoted themselves to celebrate the written word. With advanced technology and resources, women writers have gained more confidence in themselves to express themselves more freely than ever before. Though society has progressed a great deal, it is felt that women have not got their due recognition in the field of writing. Brilliant writing by women need not hide behind pseudonyms. Work of marvel by women writers that appeals to both the heart and the head, that perfectly blends emotion and logic, needs to be celebrated. Storytelling that changes perspectives and has the power to move the world needs to be recognized. For the first time, J.K. Paper and the Times of India have joined hands to present the Author Awards, India's most coveted Women Author Awards, which is launched to celebrate the art of storytelling and recognize women who have broken biases in the writing space. In the month of November 2019, the awards were announced and the logo was unveiled at the most prestigious gathering of eminent authors and thinkers at the Times Lit Fest Delhi, and once launched, there was no stopping us. Conversation started and increased many folds, catching multimedia attention. And all this while, the number of entries kept rising, to finally close at over 800 submissions. The Times editorial teams were helped in the initial screening by an honorable screening committee. The screened entries were further deliberated upon by professionals of eminence or esteemed panel of jury. The world of storytelling became a buzz. Some of the most talked about authors presented their passion for writing and their journey into the world of storytelling. Some others got to interact with their readers through immersive multi-city book reading sessions. We were delighted at the insightful experiences of delving into stories and perspectives presented by the authors. Interactions with our online community increased with the introduction of our fifth category, Popular Choice Award, attracted votes from more than 2,500 book lovers. Words spread like wildfire, and our words were matched with those of publishing houses, bookstores and authors alike. The results of the campaign speak for its success. With over 27,000 visitors on the website, page impressions recorded and over 24 blank. Celebration of stories that stir souls of writers who dare to dream and writing that works beyond genres. We are pleased to welcome you all to the Author Awards Season 1 ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned in Vinita's address, as well as the AV, we have an eminent jury for the awards who were kind enough to spare their time to judge the entries and look at multiple entries. To felicitate the jury, may I please invite onto stage Mr. Anurag Agarwal and Amitabh Bhatnagar from BCCL. One of our jury chairs, Sonali Bendre, could not make it here today, so we have a little message from her which we will play before we invite the rest of the jury.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely having some FOMO right now for not being there with you all tonight. Especially after the tight deadlines the hard taskmaster Vinita has put me through. Would have loved to have met everyone in person and shared in the celebrations, but prior commitments have kept me away. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the nominees and the winners tonight. I, for one, have had an amazing time reading all the work in the non-fiction category and discussing it with my co-jury members, Yasir Usman and Manimukta Sharma. The quality and the caliber of the work was truly incredible. Thank you, Vinita, for giving me this opportunity. It's great to see women authors from all genres being recognized and awarded. Congratulations to all the winners and wishing you all a happy Women's Day.
May I now please invite onto stage our wonderful jury chairs, Ms. Shobha De, Ms. Bulbul Sharma and Mr. Ashwin Sanghi. Let's keep that applause going for them until they come up to stage. Thank you, Anurag and Amitabh. Thank you so much. I'm going to quickly trouble the jury members for a quick question on their experience with the judging. My first question, Shobhaji, is for you, which is it harder for a debut woman author? Is it harder for a debut woman author to get published? Are there special challenges that a woman faces? Are publishers gender biased at all?
Namaskar, good evening, and congratulations, Vinita and the team, and all the participants, 850 of them. The question you've asked is interesting because when I started writing my first novel, which was over 35 years ago, I was told by my publisher that there's absolutely zero market for women's voices because people are simply not interested in what women had to say. Since then, there's been an incredible explosion of talent and women expressing themselves in ways that are just phenomenal in terms of the truth that they're telling. After years and years of not having a voice at all, or having to somehow censor their own voices because it may not have been acceptable, not just for readers, but within their own family, within their own community, to be able to speak fearlessly has been something that I have witnessed over the last 20 years. It's given me enormous pride in reading the entries this time, and the quality of the writing, and more than anything else, it's just the courage to be saying what they're saying and to be saying it that beautifully. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to go through the books that were submitted, especially since they were first-time writers. It was the debut category, young people and extraordinary talent. So it's been a great initiative, and it's been my pleasure to be part of the jury. And I was very happy that I had two young people on the jury with me, Arjun and Rishi. They provided the perspectives that someone perhaps at my age group would not always have sensed in quite the same way as discussing the books with very young minds, very open minds, very lively minds. So thank you, Arjun. Thank you, Rishi. It was fantastic working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Bulbulji, the next question is for you. Shobhaji mentioned the quality of the writing. What did you find about the quality of the writing, and what did you like most about the style of writing of the winner who you chose?
I think the quality was excellent, and Vinita, I congratulate all of you for initiating this award, because I think it's going to help all especially the children's writers. And what I found amazing was they selected very difficult subjects, and even then they wrote it in a non-preachy way, in an easy, in a kind of, I wouldn't say child-friendly, but in a very comfortable way. And that is a great achievement, because children, will, unlike adults who might read a book if it's sort of everybody else is reading it, but children will put the book down if they don't like it. First page, that's it, gone. So and everybody, I think all the children's writers here will agree, it's difficult to write for children, and I think they've done it good.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ashwin, last one is for you. What were you looking for in the books that you read? What is it that you were looking for?
First of all, happy birthday, CJ, and thank you, Vinita, and all the organizers. But I think, when we were looking at all the entries that came in, it was a tough call, but we went back to the words of Samuel Johnson, who said to a young upcoming writer, he said that your work is both good and original, but the part that's good isn't original, and the part that's original isn't good. So we were looking for something that was good and was also original in that sense. But that is really much more difficult to achieve. And so, at least as far as I was concerned, I fell back on the words of Hemingway, who said, write when you're drunk and edit when you're sober. So, luckily for me on my panel, there was Jayashree, And of course, there was Gitanjali. So they remained sober while I was drunk. And finally, of course, but I think what it boiled down to was those inimitable words, which was that, which was, I think, to a certain extent, which applies to all writing, that there are 3 rules for writing the novel. Unfortunately, no one knows what they are. So beyond a certain point, you go beyond the rules, and it either instinctively feels right or it doesn't. And that's the reason why we had such extended deliberations on the final choices.
Thank you. There's only one rule for being a comedian, which was written very recently, which is don't heckle a journalist on an aeroplane.
May I also
Please.
mention my wonderful jury members, Shivani and Ravinder.
Ma'am, in fact, what we're going to do is invite onto stage all the fellow jury members, so the 3 of you can felicitate them. I'm going to take their names, and if I can trouble them all to quickly come up onto stage. We have Gitanjali Chatterjee, Jayashree Mishra, Manimugdha Sharma, Arjun Gain, Rishi Pratham Mukherjee, Ravindra Kumar, Shimani Wazir Pashrich, and Yasser Usman. If we can all have you all up on stage. Oh, it seems we need all of you to come a little bit further ahead so we can get the branding visible. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for our wonderful jury. Thank you so much, all of you. You can take your seats now. Thank you so much. Sure, sir.
Just 30 seconds. Hi, I won't take much time. We had to judge 17 books, and I would like to use one word. This is Dr. Tarur's domain, but today we have been Tarurized by Papa CJ, but still I'm taking that risk. Each of these books was almost supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So congrats to all the participants, and I would like to add just one small thing, that children's category is more or less completely dominated by women. So can I request Times Awards guys to have a category for gentlemen writers who write for children? Autism Awards, not author, Authim Awards. Thank you.
This is a very cool attempt to like just hijack and say, and gentlemen ke liye bhi award, women's day pe yaar, kya? Sir, you should try being a stand-up comedian. Then you'll know कि मौका नहीं मिलना क्या होता है. Right, it's almost time to start with the awards. I'm going to distract you for a little bit. See, this is the thing, sir. The struggle is for everybody. It is for men and women alike, but like Dr. Tharoor and the others have spoken, the opportunities for women are somewhat harder sometimes because of the nature of our society. And we've all struggled in different ways. So, for example, I grew up in a middle-class family. Has anyone grown up middle class? Give me a cheer if you've grown up middle class. Okay, so now cheer if you grew up in a house like this. I grew up in a house where shampoo never finished. It just magically became thinner over time, right? I grew up in a house where the bottle that had tomato sauce eventually had tomato soup, right? And for us, the small things were precious, like photographs. Ravinder, you're a young man. Do you take photographs on your mobile phone? Yeah, you see, you can do that. We didn't have that luxury. We had film rolls. Give me a cheer if you remember film rolls. Yeah, if you came from a rich family, you had a roll of 36. If you came from a middle-class family, you had a roll of 24. And Ravinder, we had those cameras. When you took those photographs, those numbers kept going past. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even after we got to 24, we would take a chance. Yeah. On the borrowed camera. Sir, see, clearly times were harder for him as well. But India has evolved. We had Formula 1 racing in India. In Delhi, any fans of Formula 1 racing? A few people, Mr. Singhania, did you enjoy the race in Noida? Good or bad? Good. I was deeply disappointed. Why?
Sir, this was Formula One racing in the Delhi region. I wanted to see Formula One racing Delhi style. Right? Forget that. I wanted to see a one-on-one race, Michael Schumacher versus Delhi driver. Right? Imagine this race, pole position, Michael Schumacher in Formula One car. Number 2 position, call center driver from Gurgaon in Tavera. Right? All the lights are red saying, relax, Tavera has already rolled down the window and said, kyun bhai, race karega sale. All the lights become yellow, Schumacher is waiting to go, this guy has already gone. This is Delhi boss, nobody waits at a yellow light. Comes to the first turn, puts his hand out to the window, goes the other way. Schumacher catches up with him, the road splits up into 2 parts, Pakka Rasta and Kacha Rasta. Schumacher goes down the Pakka Rasta, Tavera goes down the Kacha Rasta. 2 minutes later, Michael Schumacher has to turn around and come back. Why has he turned around and come back? Because there's metro construction happening. Right? Comes to the pit lane, finds there's a no entry sign. Tavera goes straight through. While Schumacher is getting petrol poured, somebody selling him magazines, there are children dancing in the middle of the road. Meanwhile, Tavera has gone to Gurgaon and whistled at somebody and comes back. Again, Schumacher catches up with him. Again, the road splits up into 2 parts. Pakka Rasta and Kacha Rasta. This time, Schumacher goes on Kacha Rasta. Last time he got screwed when he went on the Pakka Rasta. Crosses the finishing line. He's like, yes, yes, I won. Get to the podium, Michael Schumacher disqualified. He says, Arey, but why? Sir, today's odd number day, you have even number plate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to begin our awards. Can I please invite onto stage the 3 gentlemen in the front, Mr. Singhania, Mr. Jain, and of course our chief guest, Dr. Tharoor, to please come up onto stage. Our first category is for Best Fiction. Can we please have the nominees?
Nominees for Best Fiction are Madhuri Vijay. Madhuri Vijay has been a prolific contributor to many publications and winner of several awards. Her debut book, The Far Field, is a potent critique of Indian politics and class prejudice. Manjul Bajaj. Manjul Bajaj's book catered to both adults and children. Her latest book, In Search of Heer, explores the many meanings of love in the timeless tale of Heer Ranjha. Sutapa Basu, a poet, an author, and the very first winner of the Times of India Right India campaign. In 2016, her book, The Curse of Nadir Shah, is a powerful, fictitious retelling of the exploits of the formidable conqueror.
Can we have the winner's envelope, please?
Oh, the winner is a tie. We have 2 winners, Shrutapa Basu and Madhuri Vijay.
Can we first have onto stage Shrutapa Basu? The winner cannot get onto stage to silence, so we have to clap a little bit more. And raise the volume here. Shrutapa, may I please request you to say a few words? Shrutapa, may I please request you to say a few words? Dr. Tharoor, could you just share your microphone with her? If it's there.
Sorry, give it to her. Absolutely. Your word, your voice.
Thank you. I'm actually overwhelmed. I never really expected this, with so many eminent writers in the shortlist. Thank you very much. First, let me thank all the women who have encouraged me, starting with my mother, my sister, my daughter, and all my women friends out there who are still there rooting for me. Thank you so much. The other strong woman who has been my mentor, who has encouraged me from day one, and I think I'm here only because of her, is Vinita Dabra Nangya. I would like you all to clap for her. And I should not miss out the men in my life. My father, who has always encouraged me, my husband, who has tolerated me, my son, who has always been there with me, and all the men who have supported me, all my friends. And finally, I would like to thank J.K. Paper and the Times of India for giving me this forum. Thank you everybody.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Madhuri could not join us to collect the award today, so can we please have on the stage Udayan Mitra, publisher for the literary division of HarperCollins, please. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Udayan, would you like to say a few words? You don't have to, huh? It's Women's Day, so.
Thank you. Madhuri couldn't be here, so I just wanted, on her behalf, to say how delighted I am, and she would be too, to accept this award, and to thank J.K. Paper, Times of India, and the jury. This happens to be a debut, but it wasn't selected in the debut category. It's in the best fiction category, and it's a book that could only have been written by a woman, but and those of you who have read it know what I'm talking about. It's also a book that, if you, irrespective of the gender of the author, it is really one of the most wonderful books I have read in the last 10 years at least. And so very happy to accept this on Madhuri's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, then. Our next category is Best Non-Fiction. Can we have the nominees, please?
Nominees for Best Non-Fiction are Revati Lawal, an independent journalist and filmmaker. Her first book, The Anatomy of Hate, is a narrative on research and interviews around 2002 Godhra riots. Saba Diwan, a documentary filmmaker. Saba Diwan's works are based on sexuality, gender, identity, communalism and culture. Her book, Tawaifnama, is a nuanced and powerful micro-history set against the sweep of Indian historical panorama. Yashika Dutt, a writer and journalist. Yashika Dutt has written on a broad range of topics. Her book, Coming Out as Dalit, is an intense memoir that details her journey of coming to terms with her true identity of being a Dalit.
Right, time for the announcement of the winner.
And the winner of the prize for Best Author Non-Fiction, Saba Diwan.
Sabaji, if you can say a few words for us as well. Ma'am, if you can say a few words.
Thank you very much. This award is for the women who shared their stories with me and about whom Tawaifnama is all about. And for very long, denied and deprived a voice. I just feel truly happy that Tawaifnama could be there and has got this award, and I'm sure they'll be happy too. I'd also like to thank Westland, my publishers, especially Karthika and Ajita, my editor. and amongst a whole host of people who have supported me through this very long journey in the writing of this book, I'd like to thank my partner, my husband, my friend, Rahul Roy, who's here, and who has been, who's been behind me and encouraged me, pushed me, grumbled, whatever, but, been there through the entire long years it took to writing of the Wifenama. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next category is Best Debut Author. May we have the nominees, please?
Nominees for Best Debut Author are Rehana Munir, an independent writer on culture and lifestyle. Her book, Paper Moon, is about the birth of a Mumbai bookshop and, in her own words, a book leaning towards lightness and laughter. Shubha Mudgar, an acclaimed Hindustani classical singer. Her debut work of fiction, Looking for Miss Sargam, is a happy tale of music and interesting misadventures. Rudrakshi Bhattacharjee, a child prodigy. She received recognition for her literary talent at a very young age. Her book, This Is How It Took Place, is a brilliant collection of interwoven short stories. Unfortunately, she is no more with us, but her admirable body of work will always keep her alive.
There was a lesson in that nomination of tone of voice when you say a few words.
We have another tie. The best debut author goes to Rudrakshi Bhattacharjee and Rehana Munir.
If I can first invite onto stage Rehana Munir to come and collect her award. Rehana, may I request you to say a few words, please?
Thank you so much. I'd like to, we've been talking about women and their role and Women's Day and the relevance, and just a phrase from Susan Sontag came to mind. Women, at least when she was writing, she said, are still a cultural minority, and that perhaps, makes sense of the idea of having a Women's Day and an Author's Award for women, so thank you for that. I'd like to thank my professor, the late Professor Eunice D'Souza, who was a poet herself. My book is dedicated to her, as well as my older sister, Kausar, who's a writer. So that's all I have to say. It was great fun writing the book. So I am an exception to the rule of, those writers who turn into very difficult people, or chain smokers, or alcoholics, who lock themselves up in cabins. But perhaps that's male writers, I don't know. I had a great time. And thank you so much. I'm very happy to share this award, and I think we'll move on to the other recipient of it. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rehana.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Rudrakshi Bhattacharjee is no longer with us, but we have her parents in the room. May I please request them to come onto stage and accept the award on her behalf. This is the best debut author, Rudrakshi Bhattacharjee. If I could request Rudrakshi's mother to say a few words, if you won't mind, ma'am.
very special moment for us. And I can imagine Rudrakshi standing here jumping, and she would have been, are you sure? You know, I'm just a silly little girl. I mean, do you think really there haven't been a mistake? So, so that's Rudrakshi, very humble, and I think she inspires us every day, every moment, and you know, and I think I would like to thank Shiny Anthony, who went through, I think, every line of her writing and many of her unfinished stories too, and gave us such a ray of light. And Rahul Soni at HarperCollins, who first saw it and I think gave us so much of happiness when we heard from him that they were going to publish her writings. And Udayan, thank you. And Sohini Basak at Harper, you all were such wonderful support, your empathy, your silent support, and the love we received from you all at Harper. So I just wanted to thank all of you. Jeet Thail, whom I have never met, but I think he read her work and was immediately wrote a few lines of encouragement. So it's a very, very special to see, people come out and embrace her writings. And one thing that we have learned from her is that where there is attachment and expectation, love doesn't exist there. So I think at a very young age, she has taught us that, and we try to live by that. So thank you, JK organization. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving us this special moment here today. And we are so happy to share with all of you over here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Our fourth category is Best Children's Author.
Nominees for Best Children Author. Bijal Vacharajani. As a prolific writer and author of books for children, her book, A Cloud Called Bhura, is a thought-provoking, funny and inspiring tale about the changing global climate. Jane D'Souza, a columnist and humor writer, her book Fly Away Boy is spirited and powerfully imaginative and is about embracing everything that makes you uniquely you. Paro Anand, an author of books for children, young adults and adults. Her book Being Gandhi examines what it means to be a Gandhian in the present times.
Let's have the winner.
And the winner of the Best Author for Children, Bijal Vacharanjari.
Bijal ji, if you can say a few words for us, please. Thank you.
So my plane was actually, oh, thank you. Yes, please. So my plane was stuck for 2 hours, so I said, what, in case I win, I'm going to write something down, so I'm going to read this. The children's literature community is home to some of the most wonderful women I know, also a few good men, and it's also home to magic. Magic that unlocks a child's imagination, magic that is about literacy. Yet this magic sometimes is not afforded the respect it deserves. The children's literature community is often the least paid, the least prioritized in this grown-up world of books. This when our books create tomorrow's readers, tomorrow's citizens, and it's these young readers today who are today demanding a better world for democracy, for secularism, and for climate. So big shout out to the kids who we know are completely all right. And also, thank you so much, Author, for giving children's books this respect. Vinita and team, jury, Bulbul, Ramendra, Shivani, for championing green children's literature. My fellow nominees, Paro, big fan, and Jane. My family, my friends, especially Sheni Bali, super agent Kanishka, Sudeshna, Maithili, and the Talking Cub team, and Oindri, and Abhyan, this one's for you. You're no longer here with me, but it's your belief that keeps me going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next category is a category where the public is the judge. It is the Popular Choice Awards. We had a lot of readers giving their votes. There was a stiff competition. Let's have the nominees, please.
Nominees for Popular Choice Awards are Manjul Bajaj for In Search of Heer, Sutapa Basu for The Curse of Nadir Shah, Madhuri Vijay for The Far Field, Revati Lal for The Anatomy of Hate, Sabha Diwan for The Wife Nama, Yashika Dutt for Coming Out as Dalit, Rehana Munir for Paper Moon, Rudrakshi Bhattacharji for This Is How It Took Place, Shubha Mudkar for Looking for Miss Sargam, Bijal Vacharajani for A Cloud Called Bhura, Paro Anand for Being Gandhi, Jane D'Souza for Fly Away Boy.
All right, and the winner of our Popular Choice Awards, voted by the public, is...
And the winner of the Popular Choice Award, she's already been on stage, Shutapa Basu.
Shutapa, would you like to say a few more words?
All I can say is thank you so much for voting for me. Thank you. It actually belongs to all of you who have voted for me. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you so much. Before we announce our last award, I'd like to invite onto stage Ms. Shobha De, who is the jury chair for the best debut, to share a few words as to why she chose Rudrakshi. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening again, and I'd just like to bow down to the parents of Rudrakshi. It was a fabulous speech. You used the word empathy and love and detachment. And while reading that book, it's a searing, compelling read written by a 16-year-old. And all of us reading that book, my jury members and myself, it was a tough choice because what was important to remember about this book is it's an imagined world. It's a world that's fictionalized. It's not her world. She's not writing about her immediate experience. It's not about her parents. It's not about a boyfriend who may or may not have existed. It is a precocious book because the depth of her writing, the emotions poured into it, the language skills, the insights, you cannot imagine that it's a 16-year-old girl capable of writing a book that just stays with you and stays with you. So it was a talent that unfortunately we lost too early, And I can just imagine what her parents must have felt this evening, missing Rudrakshi, but also feeling in a way fulfilled on her behalf for having won this award. So it's a huge, huge thing. It's a very inspirational book, deeply moving book. And I think, Udayan, would you like, as a publisher, to just talk about the process for 2 minutes? Because it's also important to have a publisher believe in a book of this kind and back the book, and that it went on to the sort of reception this book has generated all across India is something so powerful because of the truth in the book. It's not just about a sympathy factor. It's not about saying, oh my God, the young person is no more. It's not because it's a posthumous award. It's because of the quality of her writing and the quality of her mind. And that's what we recognized. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shobha. So Shiny Anthony sent this to us in manuscript form. Rudrakshi had already passed away. Three of us read it, and in editorial at HarperCollins, Rahul Soni, my colleague, who Rudrakshi's parents mentioned, and Sohini Basak, who also works in the literary team, and I did as well. All of us read it over one weekend. I think Shiny had sent it on a Friday. We read it over the weekend. Monday morning, we came back to office. All three of us said, what is this? I mean, very rarely, we read a lot of manuscripts, as you can imagine, sometimes from very famous authors, sometimes from people who are writing for the very first time. Very rarely do we actually come across something that is so striking that you simply cannot forget it for months and years to come. And those of you who haven't read This Is How It Took Place must, because it's a one-of-a-kind book. And it is not a one-of-a-kind book only because Rudrakshi is no longer with us. It would have been a one-of-a-kind book anyway. It is just a miraculous debut. The writing is that different, it's that powerful. And you know, what it does is, it really, as a publisher, it gives me great hope for writing in the future, writing in the present and writing in the future, readership in the future. Because writing like Rudrakshi's can only come from very thorough readership as well. And as publishers, it gives us hope that there is such talent around. Thanks for asking me on stage to talk about it.
Thank you, Udayan. Thank you, Shobhaji. Thank you so much. May I please invite back onto stage Vinita Daura Nangia to the podium to announce and share a few words on our pinnacle award of the evening, the Lifetime Achievement Award.
The Lifetime Achievement Award, the first ever Author Awards 2020 Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Nayanthara Saigal, as we all know. Nayanthara Saigal has written 12 novels, 10 works of non-fiction, a collection of short stories, and wide-ranging literary and political commentary. Please take a seat. Some of her books have been translated into a number of foreign languages and several Indian languages. She has received the Sahitya Akademi Award, the Sinclair Prize, the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, and an honorary doctorate of letters from the University of Leeds. Nayanthara ji has held fellowships in the United States at the Bunting Institute, the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, and the National Humanities Center. She is a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. She was associated with the founding of the People's Union for Civil Liberties and served as a vice president for many years. In 2015, Nayanthara Saigal returned her Sahitya Akademi Award in protest against the murder of two eminent rationalists and the ongoing assault on the freedom of expression and democratic rights. Since then, she has been speaking and writing about the diminishing space for dissent and the rise of authoritarianism. Her writing is marked by cultural pluralism and religious tolerance. Since the mid-1950s, Nayanthara Sehgal's work has reflected the values of the national movement for independence and explored the dilemmas of women and the quest for freedom in the new republic. Among her characters are women who have defied convention and broken through to full, rich lives of their own. It is because of this that Nayanthara Sehgal has meant so much to generations of feminists who have grown up with her writing. She describes her own writing as being about the making of modern India, and therefore she describes her last two novels as the unmaking of modern India. While politics and history inspired much of her writings, Nayanthara Sehgal's novels consistently focus on women issues and are an inspiration for young women across the globe. The Women Author Awards Committee is delighted and privileged to confer our first ever Lifetime Achievement Award on Nayanthara Sehgal for her consistent and valuable contribution in the field of literature and for her allegiance to truth and her own belief system always. Unfortunately, Nayanthara ji could not travel to Delhi to receive the awards due to ill health, but her daughter Geeta Sehgal has flown in to receive it on her behalf. Geeta Sehgal herself is a writer and journalist on issues of feminism, fundamentalism, and racism, a documentary films director, and a women's rights and human rights activist. She has been a co-founder and active member of women's organizations. Geeta has also been head of Amnesty International's gender unit and has opposed the oppression of women, in particular by religious fundamentalists. Before we invite Geeta on stage, we will play a short video message which Nayanthara ji very kindly recorded for us.
It's a great honor to have received this Lifetime Achievement Award for an outstanding contribution to literature. It means that I have been read and I've been understood. What I have been trying to say through my fiction particularly has been understood by Indian readers. And this award therefore means much more to me than any other award I have received, because it is the first in India for women writers, and that I have been chosen as the first recipient of this award. So I want to say a very big thank you for those who have selected me for this honor.
May I invite on stage Geeta Sehgal to receive the award on behalf of Nayanthara Sehgal.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Lifetime Achievement Award. It deserves more round of applause than that. Ma'am, if you could say a few words for us, please. Sure.
It's a frightening thing to be here representing my mother. She should have been here receiving the award herself, but she couldn't travel here, and I'm here on her behalf, and I'm extremely proud to be here. So I'm reading her words. I wish I could have been here this evening on this very special occasion, but I send my warm greetings to the Times of India, to JK Paper, and to all the friends and well-wishers, readers and writers who are gathered here. Today is International Women's Day, and the presence of my old friend Shashi Tharoor as chief guest, although he is a man, assures me of his comradeship with Indian women in the ongoing struggle for dignity and equality that women here and in many countries have been waging for about a century. I'm honored to receive this Lifetime Achievement Award, which is conferred for being an outstanding contribution to literature, and even more honored to be the first recipient of an award exclusively for women writers. In writing, as in other areas of our lives, men have dictated the rules. Even our religious books that decide what is sacred and what is not, the Manusmriti, for example, which lays down absolutely unacceptable and detestable behavior norms for women, have been written by men. To this day, Indian women know the problems they face in the process of putting their experiences into words on a page, a liberty that most men take for granted. And these problems are especially harsh and hazardous for women writers who do not belong to the privileged, protected upper crust and dare not write freely about love, marriage, or experiences such as intercourse or giving birth, or anything connected with their bodies or their desires or vital decisions concerning their lives, for fear of infuriating their husbands or facing the wrath of society. I know a writer who wrote a story about a married woman who falls in love with another man, leaves her husband, and goes away with her lover. The writer's husband flew into a rage. He threatened to divorce her if she didn't change the ending. And to save her marriage, she had to change it. There have been rare exceptions of women who have broken these rules, come what may, but many more are on record who have had to face the family or society's wrath for even a small step forward in expressing their intimate experiences and concerns. What this Authors Award has done is to throw open the opportunity to them to do so and to reward the best of such writing. I like to think of the award as in this way upholding the letter and spirit of our Constitution, which accepts no limits to equality or the freedom of expression. Our republic gave women the vote at the very beginning of our nationhood, which no other country had ever done. So Indian women never had to fight for the vote. Our Constitution declared there will be no gender bias. We are all Indians. There will be no touchable and untouchable. We are all Indians. There will be no single favored religion. We are all Indians. From that high aspiration, India is now perceived as the world's most dangerous country for women. So it is time once again to assert the equality of all Indians on all fronts. As far as literature is concerned, this new Authors Award is doing so by giving Indian women a weapon to enable them to kick away the barriers that force them into rigid conventional modes and to write, if they wish to, of what intimately concerns their bodies, their minds, their lives, their pleasures, and their pains. Or for that matter, if they wish to write wide-ranging novels about any subject on earth, science fiction, historical fiction, political fiction, detective fiction, you name it. And good luck and Godspeed to all such future Indian writing. Thank you again, Times of India and J.K. Paper, for the honor you have done me, and thank you also for an award that will highlight and promote and celebrate the writing of India's women.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause, Nentara Sehgal. To close out the evening, may I please invite onto stage Mr. E.S. Mehta, President JK Paper, for a vote of thanks. If you sit down, you will have to come back up in 3 minutes. So,
a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, my greetings to all the gracious ladies here on the International Women's Day. All my best wishes. It was truly an inspiring evening. On behalf of the entire team JK Paper and Times of India, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who has mesmerized all of us by his words as well as the engaging talks. I'd like to thank all our esteemed jury members who have spent considerable time in assessing and evaluating all the writings. Also, thanks to Grant Thornton, who has done a good work going through all the 800 entries, finally to reach some of our winners. Papa CJ, a very happy birthday to you. And in fact, you enthralled the gathering here. Last but not the least, I would like to thank the entire Times of India and JK Paper team who has done the relentless work in organizing this event. And truly the success of the event is the audience and the presence here. So thank you all of you coming for this event despite the COVID. Although today's evening is just a beginning, I would say is not end of the event, it's just the beginning. And we will have in time to come the wonderful many more such the award event in time to come. Once again, the heartiest congratulations to all the award winners and the nominees. I would like to end with this word of Amrita Pritam. When a man denies the power of woman, he denies his own subconscious. Once again, a happy Women's Day today. Thank you very much and good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close out the night by asking all the jury members and the awardees to come up on the stage for a quick photo opportunity. However, as the audience, you have already been sitting for a while. You don't need to sit for the photograph. I would just like to close with one thing, which is that we are celebrating women today and their wonderful achievements. However, they need to be celebrated every single day of the year and not just on an International Women's Day. God bless you all. The bar is open. Dinner is served. If I can request all the awardees and the jury members to come up onto stage for a quick photo opportunity. Thank you all for coming and good night. Dr. Tharoor has asked me to remind all the winners that the checks are not Yes Bank checks. They are not Yes Bank checks, so you will get paid. Vinita, we need you on stage as well. If we can have all the jury members and the award winners on stage. And dinner is at the adjacent room. So if you're looking at the stage, it is at 3 o'clock.